I'm Dr. Sonia De Cruz, and I'd like to share my perspective on the background of Operation Blue Star. Punjab has faced oppression for decades, whether it was in the form of invasion by the Afghans, Mughals, or Anglos, or in the form of oppression by the government. Sikhism originated in Punjab, and Sikhs had a major influence before India became independent in 1947, even though they were less than 2% of the Indian population. Therefore, Sikhs have directly borne the brunt of several issues affecting Punjab. These issues were geographical, linguistic, political, religious, and economic. I'll briefly address each. The first one is the geographical issue. Jawaharlal Nehru and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who belonged to the Congress, gave their word of reassurance for the protection of the rights of the Sikhs. Jawaharlal Nehru in fact said, quote, "The brave Sikhs of Punjab are entitled to special consideration. I see nothing wrong in an area and a setup in the north wherein the Sikhs can also experience the glow of freedom," unquote. Source, Congress meeting, Calcutta, July 1944. Gandhi said, quote, "I ask you to accept my word and the resolution of the Congress that it will not betray a single individual, much less a community. Our Sikh friends have no reason to fear that it would betray them, for the moment it does so, the Congress would not only thereby seal its doom, but that of the country too. Moreover, the Sikhs are a brave people. They know how to safeguard their rights by exercise of arms if it should ever come to that," unquote. Source, Young India, 19th March 1931. In my opinion, the last statement is condescending, especially for a community that has contributed to the security of the nation by selflessly fighting wars and who practice a specific code of conduct in order to take up arms. That is, only if the need arises and within the framework of their principles. To them, their arms are sacred and not a means to threaten or attack innocent people in order to safeguard their rights. Gandhi also made mentions of Sikhism being a part of Hinduism, which isn't the case because the definition of a Sikh does not fit the definition of a Hindu and vice versa. He said, quote, "It cannot be said that Sikhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism are separate religions. All these four faiths and their offshoots are one. Hinduism is an ocean into which all rivers run," unquote. Source, Collected Works of M.K. Gandhi, Volume 90, page 177. Now, just for perspective, Christ was born in a Jewish family, but we don't call him Jew. Gautam Buddha was born in a Hindu family, but we don't call him Hindu. Likewise, Christians and Muslims in India, whose ancestors must have been Hindu, we don't call them Hindus anymore. In the successive years, it was seen that the personal laws of the Sikhs were abolished and replaced by Hindu laws like the Hindu Succession Act and the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. When the Constitution of India was revealed, Article 25 put Sikhism under the blanket of Hinduism. The process of partition, which was supposed to take about 6 months, happened in a haste without consideration for the repercussions. About 15 million people migrated both ways across the border, making it the largest mass migration in the history of the world. They were forced to abandon their homes, relatives, property, and holy sites. Out of these, about 2.5 million were Sikhs. About 2 to 3 million people were killed in partition riots out of hunger or disease. Some of them stayed alive by eating leaves or drinking water from the puddles. The atrocities of the partition have been shown in the series called Tamas on Doordarshan, which was released in 1988 but banned by the government then. Among other gurdwaras that the Sikhs had to leave behind, the birthplace of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of Sikhism, is in Nankana Sahib near Lahore, present-day Pakistan. I'd like to add here that partition survivors were in life and death situations and had to rebuild themselves from scratch. Their legacy lives around us today through our friends, relatives, leaders, and service providers. I've often heard people calling Sikhs Pakistanis as a racial slur or saying, "Go back to Pakistan." Let me just reinforce what we already know. We are all essentially the same blood and had ancestors hailing from either side. Nobody wanted the partition. Innocent people fell victim to the injudicious politics. Even today, there's no Independence Day for them. While the country rejoiced, they suffered trauma. Even today, most of them haven't reunited with their families or are unable to visit their homes and people they left during the partition. Research has shown that post-traumatic shock distress causes changes at a genetic and epigenetic level, and the effects are carried down through generations. So now when we see an Indian Hindu or Sikh hugging their Pakistani friend, we now know better to join them in their celebration. Originally, Punjab extended from Khyber to the Himalayas. In March 1946, the Akali Dal, which is the Sikh political head, submitted a resolution asserting their rights to their own state. It said, quote, whereas the Sikhs being attached to Punjab by intimate bonds of holy shrines, prosperity, language, traditions and history, claim it as their homeland and holy land, and which the British took as a trust from the last Sikh ruler during his minority, and whereas the entity of the Sikhs is being threatened on account of the persistent demand for Pakistan by the Muslims on the one hand, and the danger of absorption by the Hindus on the other, the Executive Committee of the Shiromani Akali Dal demands for the preservation and protection of the religious, cultural, economic rights of the Sikhs, the creation of a Sikh state, unquote. Let's note here that the operative terms are preservation and protection of their rights. The Akali Dal resolution was not considered at the Cripps mission, but at the Cabinet mission, Punjab was divided into a western two-third which belonged to the Muslim majority and became Pakistan, and an eastern one-third which belonged to the Hindu majority. In 1953, the President's rule was imposed in Patiala and East Punjab States Union, and the Akali Dal government was dismissed. The then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru set up a States Reorganization Committee. Now, as the constitution claimed to be secular, it was not religion which was the chosen criteria to redraw the state boundaries. It was language. Therefore, in 1966, when Indira Gandhi came to power, the state of Punjab was further cut into two states, which are Haryana and Himachal Pradesh, which were made the dominantly Hindi-speaking states. This was based on the controversial 1951 census. So this made Punjab even smaller, and Sikhs became only 56% in their own homeland and minorities in the other states which were formerly a part of Punjab. In 1954, when Jawaharlal Nehru was reminded of the solemn promises he and Gandhi had made to the Sikhs and the other minorities, the Congress replied, quote, the circumstances have now changed, unquote. The second is the linguistic issue. Punjabi is the indigenous language of the state of Punjab. The Sikh holy scriptures, or the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, also called the Gurbani, is written by the Sikh Guru himself in Gurmukhi, which is also commonly called Punjabi. This language, therefore, is the very identity of a Sikh. From the time of independence from the British, that is in 1947, the Bharatiya Janata Sangh, which is the former name of the current Bharatiya Janata Party or the BJP, and its sister organization, the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh or the RSS, started a communal campaign to create a Hindu domination in the state of Punjab. As a result, the census showed 62% as Hindus and 35% as Sikhs, even though 80% of Sikhs lived in Punjab. Hindi was then declared the state language of Punjab instead of Punjabi, and Tamil, which is originally a South Indian language, was made the second language of Punjab, whereas other states in India had gotten their own regional language. This led to the Punjabi Suba movement. Suba means state. So this was a civil disobedience movement launched in 1955 to demand a Punjabi statehood. I'd say they demanded restoration of their rights and not a new or separate land. This means that they were not separatists. Rather, it was the media which portrayed them that way to avoid the dipping of percentage of Hindus in the census. Now, talking about the religious aspect. The founder of Sikhism was Guru Nanak Dev Ji. He was the first Sikh Guru. He said, "Na koi Hindu, na koi Musalman," which loosely translates to, nobody is Hindu, nobody is Muslim. He also preached the concept of Ik Onkar or oneness, which is the first word of the Sikh holy scriptures. It means there is one God, we are one, and we are one with God. Thus, he preached a faith which was independent of any existing religious ties. The crux of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings can be summarized as Kirat Karo, Naam Japo, Vansh Jako, which loosely translates to earn an honest living, pray to the Almighty, and share the fruit of your labor with the less privileged. Guru Nanak Dev Ji himself worked in the fields to set an example for his disciples. Dekh Dekh Fateh is a motto which loosely translates to food and freedom for all. The Deg or the vessel symbolizes charity, and Teg or the sword symbolizes sovereignty. A part of the first prayer of the Sikhs called the Japji Sahib starts with the Mool Mantar, which has the words Nirbhau Nirvair, which loosely translates to without fear, without hatred or enemies, thus inculcating compassion and tolerance, the very virtues we admire about the Sikh community. Among the tenets of Sikhism, the ones that stand out to me are the following 5. First is the concept of growing spiritually while fulfilling one's worldly duties. Guru Nanak Dev Ji rejected the concept of renunciation and meditating in the mountains while the world experienced problems, and he encouraged his followers to live the life of the world, that is, having a family and a job while growing spiritually. In simple terms, being an all-rounder. The second is the concept of Meri Piri, that is, exercising temporal authority or Meri and spiritual authority, which is Piri. This was introduced by the 6th Guru, Guru Har Gobind Singh Ji. Both go hand in hand. It is therefore essential to have a political opinion rather than being apolitical or a pacifist, and growing spiritually ensures that we operate from a place of tolerance, logical reasoning and compassion rather than aggression or vindictiveness. Third is the concept of charity, which is practiced daily in every Gurdwara of the world in the form of the langar or the free kitchen, where all are welcome to eat irrespective of caste or creed. Other than the goal of eradicating poverty one free and nutritious meal at a time, the idea is to have everyone sit side by side without distinction of race or religion, thus promoting equality. The langar was continuously served during the COVID-19 pandemic while practicing stringent COVID protocol. The free kitchen was also taken from the Gurdwaras and spread to the remote areas. There are also 1313 or the Tera Tera stores where people donate their books and clothes as they wish, and people can buy things from there for ₹13, and these proceedings are given to the underprivileged for their development. Likewise, there are free medical stores too. The fourth point is that equality between men and women was made clear by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. He said, quote, "From woman man is born, within woman man is conceived. To woman he is engaged and married. From woman, woman is born. Without woman there would be no one at all." Unquote. Women are also seen preaching in gatherings and are armed just as men, as they fought in the front line in the wars as part of the Khalsa army, like Mata Sahib Kaur Ji, who was also called the mother of Khalsa. The fifth point is that a fundamental part of being Sikh is to fight oppression and injustice within the framework of the Sikhi principles. It is the duty of a Sikh to protect and defend someone else who is being oppressed and cannot defend themselves. I shall discuss more about this in part 2 of 5. Sikhism does not promote the paraphernalia like worship of animals and idols, thread ceremony, depending on astrology for marriages, or superstitions. All of the details are mentioned in the Sikh Rehat Maryada or the Sikh Code of Conduct. A Sikh will not be seen going around converting people of other faiths to Sikhism, but a Sikh tells a Muslim to be a better Muslim, a Christian to be a better Christian, a Hindu to be a better Hindu, and likewise for a Baha'i, Jew, Jain or Buddhist. The Sikh does not fit the definition of any other faith but of his or her own. Apart from Gandhi calling Sikhism as a part of Hinduism, when the Constitution of India was revealed, Article 25 put Sikhism under the umbrella of Hinduism, thus further alienating an already marginalized minority community. Added to this, the non-Sikh extremist groups were reported to have desecrated the Sikh holy scriptures and the Gurdwaras on multiple occasions, which is prevalent even today. The founder of the Arya Samaj passionately preached that Sikhism was a branch of Hinduism and actively maligned the founder of the Sikh faith itself, and the Sikh holy scriptures. In 1899, they published two pamphlets with the title Sikhs Hindu Hai, which means Sikhs are Hindus. Then Bhai Kan Singh Nabha published a book called Hum Hindu Nahi, which means We Are Not Hindus. The Arya Samaj launched a mission called Shuddhi Karni, which means purification, because they believed that people of other faiths had become polluted and they wanted to convert them back to their faith. Sikh women were raped, and this heinous act was justified as purification of the Sikh bloodline so that the children were born pure and Hindu. I'd like to mention here that all of this was being done by the extremist groups. Hinduism in itself is a beautiful and a highly tolerant faith. In fact, Sikhs and Hindus have had a mutually respectful relationship for centuries. These were the geographical, linguistic, and religious aspects that influenced the background of Operation Blue Star. In the next part, I shall address the economic and political aspects. Till then, keep learning, growing, and loving, because in the end, we're all one. Panj stands for 5 and Aap stands for river. Punjab is the land of 5 rivers.